morning, everyone. My name is Christian Boisvert. I have the pleasure of being the host for our Maximo webcast today on the topic of query-based reporting in Maximo 7.6. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend today's webcast. I truly hope you find the content both informative and valuable to your organization. For those of you who are new to our On Tracks webcast series, we offer one educational webcast each month on a topic of interest typically suggested by our clients or past webcast attendees. The purpose is simply to provide some insight into the capabilities of Maximo. Sometimes this is a very specific function or perhaps a broader topic. If you have any suggestions for future webcasts, please feel free to email us at webcasts@ontracksconsulting.com. We will be muting the phones throughout the presentation. However, we will open them up at the end to allow for any questions you may have. So that we can avoid listening to anyone's hold music, please avoid putting your phone on hold during the question and answer period. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Rachita Bhatia. Rachita is our Senior Applications Consultant at On Track's Canadian practice in Edmonton office. She's an IBM certified Maximo deployment professional and has worked on various projects for clients in the oil and gas and transportation industries. Her focus lies primarily in Maximo implementations, integration, data migration, customization, and reporting. I will now mute the phones. Please stand by.
All right, thank you, Christian. Thanks everyone for attending this webcast, and let's get started. So today we're going to talk about query-based reports. We're going to go over a little bit about what query-based reports are, the advantages of QBRs versus other forms of reporting in Maximo, the new features in QBRs that come with Maximo 7.6. We will also talk about the security setup for these reports and changes to security in Maximo 7.6 for QBRs. And finally, we're going to see a demo where we will quickly go over all that we talk about. So we will create a QBR and use some of the new features in Maximo 7.6. And in the end, we will go over any questions that you all may have. So as some of you may already be aware of, Maximo comes with a lot of features that can be used for a variety of reporting purposes. So there are KPIs and results set portlets on the start centers, for example. These provide a snapshot of the current data in the system at any given time. Then there are also BERT and Cognos reports that users can run from within most applications when they go to the Common Actions menu and just select Run Report from there. And then there are query-based reports, which we will talk in detail about today. These are also called ad hoc reports. All the other report types that I just mentioned, they're definitely some powerful tools within Maximo, but they do require a considerable amount of planning and setup before they can be used. But what about the cases where just one user or a small set of users require a quick report for occasional use or one-time use? So a lot of times organizations do not want to assign an administrator or a developer the task of creating one report for just this use case. And this is where a query-based report would come in. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons, and mainly pros of query-based reports. As I've already mentioned, these reports are targeted towards everyday Maximo users, not administrators. So they don't necessarily require significant query writing or programming skills. This is beneficial since once the users get the hang of creating these quick reports for their use, it decreases the overall maintenance and report administering time for your organization. So therefore, it's more cost efficient in the long run. Now, even though I mentioned that these reports are created by users for occasional use, there's nothing really that prevents you from saving these reports for later or for more frequent use. The reports can be saved to the database once you've done creating them, and it's really as easy as clicking a checkbox. And then once they're saved, they can be used later, and then you can come back and edit them as well. Another major benefit of QBRs would be that once they're created and saved to the database, they can also be exported from the database into BERT Designer, where the report can be further edited or formatted as per your needs. This is a very useful feature and also very time-saving, especially in cases where one might be familiar with BERT, but not enough to create a BERT report from scratch. It's easier in BERT Designer to just go into a report design file and start editing it and moving fields around and formatting it, whereas creating a report from scratch requires a little bit more deeper technical knowledge. So this feature here, once you create a report in Maximo and then export it, that's really helpful, where you can just go into BERT and edit it there. So yeah, as we can see here, QBRs is definitely a great little tool that comes within Maximo. In terms of disadvantages, QBRs are not very good at allowing the users to format reports exactly how they like. So you can't move around fields and sections too much. You can order them, but that's pretty much all you can do in terms of formatting. You can't assign page breaks to places you'd like and things like that. You can't add graphs or pictures or things like that as well. So, but like we talked about, that's not really what QBRs are for. That's not the use case that they're meant to be used for. So that's what BERT and Cosmos reports are for. Okay, now let's talk about some of the new features in these ad hoc reports or QBRs in Maximo 7.6. There are two features that jump out the most in Maximo 7.6, and those are being able to add summaries and calculations to your report. These two features are not in QBRs before, and adding the addition of these in Maximo 7.6 really makes these reports much more useful. So what we have now in Maximo 7.6 is that there are two new tabs on the QBR creation dialog box. They're called Calculate tab and the Summarize tab. And we'll take a look at these shortly here. On the Summarize tab, you can select a mathematical function that summarizes the data in the report. So for example, you could select average, median, maximum, minimum, those kind of things. And just add them at the top of your report, and it gives you a little bit more information about the data that you have in your report. And on the Calculate tab, you can use an expression builder to create your own calculations for the data in your ad hoc report. And we'll see both of these in a bit here. Maximo administrators can also create expressions, so that's a really handy tool as well. They can create expressions for the users and save them in what's called an expression library. And the users can then just create the report, select one of the expressions that are saved in Maximo, and then use those for their reports. Another advantage specifically for the administrators is that Maximo 7.6 has improved security features for these reports. So you can administer who uses the reports and who has what access more tightly now. So that's pretty useful. And what I mean by that is that you can not only restrict based on applications and security groups, you can also do it based on both, and you can do it based on the different kinds of report. And these features were there earlier as well, but they were hidden in the system properties application. And now in Maximo 7.6, it's just more easier to access them. Also in Maximo 7.6, the administrators can now set limits to the number of records allowed in a report by each security group. So this improves performance overall. Since not every user will be able to create and run a report containing, let's say, 1,000 work orders, while still leaving it as an option for some security groups. And similarly, the calculations and summary tabs can also be restricted now in an out-of-the-box Maximo environment in the security groups application. There's already signature options and created for you, so you would just have to select that security option in Maximo. And another interesting feature here is that the expression builder can check the user's security permissions. And based on those permissions, evaluate an expression created by that user. So what that means is that if a user were to add a field to a QBR via an expression that they create, and they don't have access to that field, Maximo will validate that, and then it will inform them that the expression is not valid for use. So now that we've talked about all these new features in query-based reporting offered in Maximo 7.6, let us now take a look at some of them in a quick demo. So I'm going to log into my Maximo environment here and go to the work order tracking application. Let's create a report in work order tracking. And so here we will be creating a query-based report. So to do that first, I will limit the number of records to a number that's less than, let's say, all the 431 work orders here. So let's filter this based on the priority here, and I'll only create a report for the work orders that are priority 3. So the way you go about creating QBR or an ad hoc report is that you go into the Common Actions menu here, and then just click on the Create Report button. And this is the ad hoc report dialog box. So this is where you select all the parameters that you would need in your report. And the good thing about this is that in Maximo 7.6, you can preview your report at any time while you're doing this editing and selecting the content. You can just go and preview your report and then see if it looks good, and if it doesn't, you can still continue adding fields and removing stuff that you don't want, and then go and preview again. And once you're happy with your report, then you can run and save, if you want to save, the completed report. So let's go to all the tabs here. The first tab is the Style tab. So this one basically just lets you pick what kind of report you want to run in Maximo. It gives you the option of a list report and a detailed report. And a list report is basically, looks a lot like the list tab. It will just have a number of fields or columns at the top and then all the records after that. And then a detailed report would have one record per page of the report. So it would give you one record, let's say a work order, and then all the related information, tasks, labor, material, whatever you want on the report. And then on the next page, you would see a different work order. So yeah, the difference between the two is mainly that you can have any number of one-to-many relationships. So you can have a work order, you can have a task, and then the details, and then you can have a labor, and then the labor codes details. Whereas in a list report, you can have a maximum of one of these relationships. So you can have a work order and you can have labor, but then you can't have labor. You can't go down further in the relationship hierarchy. So in the rest of the list tab here, or sorry, the Style tab here, just gives you a couple more features. This is the Apply Application Query checkbox, and what this means is just the filters that I just put on my list tab, a priority 3 work orders and site Bedford. By default, it's just asking whether we want to use that filter and save it for every time we run this report, or we do not want to. And since I do want to use it, I will leave that checked. And then the title field here is just if we want to save this report or we want other people to be able to see it, we should have a title. So let's call ours work order labor information. And then this last share button just lets other users who have permission to access reports and work order tracking, be able to see our report. So I'll click on the share button, and then you see that once I click on the share button, the title field becomes required as well. So that's the Style tab here. The next one is the Content tab. And this is where we decide what fields we want to see on our report. So on the left side here, the parent category is what's called a report object structure. I won't go into too much details about what that is, but what you do here is you specify an object structure, and every report object structure contains a list of tables that you can use to access fields that you want on your report. So for example, here there's the work order details table, and then there's assets locations, all these tables that are available to us. And I can click on one of these tables and choose fields from that table on the right-hand side in this available fields section. And then I can add those at the bottom here in the selected fields section. So what I'll do is I'll add a couple fields here. Out of the box, we do have 8 fields added on our work order labor information report, but we don't necessarily want all of these fields. So I'll remove the priority here because I know they're all priority 3, and I'll remove the site because I know it's all buffered. So remove these 2 fields, and then I will maybe add a field. So let's add the target start date here. And then let's add work order tasks. I'll add the task ID and the description of the task, and then the duration. Okay, and now let's add some labor information here. So we'll set up planned labor and actual labor. So that way what our report would show is work order details, the work order tasks, the planned labor, and the actual labor. Oh, sorry, I had to actually select a detail report here, and I didn't do that. So this one's a detail report. We're not doing a list report because that's pretty basic, but what we're creating here is a detail report. We've got our craft, and then let's add the quantity for planned labor and the labor hours. Okay, and now let's go ahead and add some actual labor as well. And here we'll get the labor code, craft, skill level, and the hours. Okay, so I think that those are all the fields that I want in my report. And then once I've decided that these look good, I can go ahead and just preview my report and make sure that we have all the fields that we want. And it opens up in this book report viewer where you can go through all the pages. So it's one record per page, like we said, on a detailed report. So here you see the work order details, planned labor, and tasks. So this one doesn't have any actual labor, and this one does. So yeah, all the fields that I selected do show up, and I like the content that I have, but I want to add a little bit more information here. So now let's go and look at our Calculate tab. So on this tab here, you'll see on the left side, we still have all those same tables from the report object structure. And then on the right-hand side, we have all the available fields that can be used for calculations. So you'll see that the text type fields wouldn't show up here. It's mostly the integer or the yes or no, 1 or 0, date, those kind of fields that can be used in expressions. So let's create an expression that tells us how many days we have for the work order to start. So let's calculate the target start date and the current date in system, and the difference between them would give us the number of days left. So what we can do here is, so on our target start date, and then add it. And here, so this is where, this is our expression box. This is where we type what calculation we want to be done in the report. And right next to it, you would see that there is a select value option. And when I click on it, this is these are the out-of-the-box expressions that are provided to us. You'll see that there's a date-time variable that just gives us the current date and time. There's dates. You can round a number. There's a conditional expression. So let's use the date-time here. Since our target start date is also a date time, we want to make sure that the data types match. And so we're just doing a regular subtraction. So target start date minus the current date. That's our expression. Let's test to see if that looks good. And yes, the validation was successful. Okay, so now let's give a name to this expression. Call it days to start. And our data type here, even though Maximo filled it out for us, based on the fields that we selected, it's not really correct. Because when we subtract the 2, we're not getting a date. We're getting the number of days. So our data type here is an integer data type. So let's select integer. Okay. And now we can add our expression to the report. So that's it. It's as easy as that. We can now, just to make sure that it all looks good, we can still preview our report again. Okay, so here you see there's a days to start field at the very end of the work order details section. And our target start is 15th February 2009. So that is about like almost 2,000 days in the past. So you see a minus 2767 there. Okay, so this one's just a week ago, 6 September, so it says 7 days in the past. And this one's 1st December, so it says 77 days in the future. So that's how you do calculations now on QBRs, basically. But this doesn't really help me as much because I don't want to see, let's say I don't want to see work orders that are in the past. It doesn't make sense to me to see a minus 2,000 something number when this work order is clearly overdue, so it should really say 0 days to start, so it should start immediately. So now let's change our expression and let's add a new one that says show me the days to start only for future work orders, and anything that's in the past, just say 0. So let's build that expression here. And the way we would do that is we'd use the out-of-the-box conditional case when expression here. So what this is saying is just it checks for a condition. If that condition is true, then it does, or it gives you a certain value, and if it's false, it gives you a different value. That's all this expression does. So here, let's give it the expression that, or the condition that it needs to check for. That's our target start date. If the target start date is greater than the current date, then we want the difference between the two. And if not, then we just want to see a 0. So that's our expression. Let's check to see if that looks correct. Okay, the validation was successful. And let's name this days to start only future work orders. And then the data type is still integer because we see a 0 or the number of days left. So we'll add this expression to our report as well. And now let's preview this report again. Okay, so here on the work order details section, we see that there's a new column here that says days to start, only future work orders. And for this one, because it was 2,000 days in the past, it just says 0. And then this one as well. But the next one was 77 days in the future, so it does show us correct number of days. Yeah, so here we can see that it only gives us, for any future dates, the correct number of days. If the target start date is in the past, it gives us a 0. That means the work orders should start immediately. So yeah, that's the Calculate tab. You can get as crafty with it as you want. And yeah, basically it gives you a lot more power now to add certain things or more information about what you have on your Maximo application field than you would otherwise in Maximo 7.6. And now let's look at the Summarize tab. So this tab, again, on the left-hand side, we see the tables that we have. On the right-hand side, we see the available fields that we can perform these mathematical functions against. So at the bottom here, we see a list of these functions. We can perform one of these calculations on one of these fields that we select from the top. So for our report, since we have the planned labor hours and we have the actual labor hours, but they're all listed individually for each labor record, let's get a total count of all the hours for planned labor and then a total for all the actual labors. So let's add that information in our QBR. And for that, we would need to go to the planned labor table and then select the labor hours field and then select the total function here. And we can just add that and we can name it total planned hours. And similarly, we'll just go and add actual labor hours as well. And then call it actual, total actual hours. Okay, so these are the two summaries that I want to see in the report. Now, let's go ahead and preview this report again. All right, so here we see that under our planned labor section, it gives us the total planned hours at the top of the table and then the regular hours for each record in the individual rows. Similarly, for actual labor, we see the total actual hours and then the individual hours. So this gives a lot more information in terms of the total hours, and we can use that for basically for materials or for costs or anything like that. We can use one of these mathematical functions and get more information on our overall data. So that's the Summarize tab. Let's now go take a look at the Format tab. This one we're not going to use in our detailed report right here, but this tab is more for use on list reports because you can do a lot of filtering, grouping, sorting, those kind of things. On a detailed report, because we're only seeing one record on each page, it doesn't really make sense to add these filters and groups for those. You can do that on the main table. So I could add a filter on the work order details section, but it doesn't help us out that much in a detailed report. And this is the same as it was in Maximo 7.6, so there's nothing really that's new on the format tab here. Now that we're happy with the report, what we can do is we can run and save completed report. Okay, so here's our final report. The formatting doesn't look as good in this Word report viewer that we see within Maximo, but we can always export the report in PDF, and it looks way better when you open it as a PDF, or you can export it in Excel, or there's a few other formats that you can use here. So that's our report, and it's one work order per page. Okay. Now, I also saved this report. So now, when I want to run it at a later time, I just come in here, select the Run Reports option, and then just look for my report from the list. So this is the work order labor information report that I created earlier. If I want to run it right now, I could, or it gives me all the other options like all reports in Maximo. I could email it to myself in the future. I could set up a weekly report to be mailed to myself, those kind of things. But the other thing that I can also do is edit this report. So let's say a week later I realized that I forgot to add a field here, or I forgot to add a calculation. I can go back and just add those fields or expressions or anything like that that I want here. What I can't change is this information here. I can't tell the report, do not use the filter anymore, or I don't want to share the report anymore. Those are now read-only. But the fields, calculate, summary, all those things I can always change. And it's important to note here that this change button, so even though I've shared this report with everybody, but let's say you log into Maximo now, you wouldn't be able to edit my report because this is created by me. But what Max admins can do, they can go into the report administration app, and we'll go there in a sec here, but they can go in and they can reassign the owner of a report to somebody else. And then that person would then be able to edit the report. And Max admins can always also delete the reports as well. So now let's go into the report administration app and look at the new security features that we have in Maximo 7.6. Okay, so in this report administration app, you'd see under the Actions menu some features that were there that you might be familiar with. So this said application security. This allows you to set the security for reports by application. So I could select the assets application, for example, and select the security groups that I want to be able to access this report. This is always there in Maximo in 7.5 as well. The set all application security lets you do the reverse thing, so it lets me select a security group, and then I can choose what kind of Maximo reports do I want them to have access to. The new thing here, though, is the set security group limits. So I can set these limits right here from within the report administration app. I can set a number of records that can be accessed by an ad hoc or QBR. I can set the number of records on scheduled reports and on report servers. So if there's a large report and we want to set a limit here so the report server doesn't time out on us. And we can set these based on security groups. So that's really useful now. The other new thing here is set report object structure security. This one is also new as well. I talked a little bit about report object structures. So those are the tables that you see on your QBRs. And so here, for example, in the work order tracking application, there's two kinds of QBRs that you can create. and because there's two report object structures. So one of them is work order details, and one of them is work order details with actuals and plans. This was the one that we had selected on our QBR. But what the max admin can do is they can always grant certain security groups the access to the actuals and plans, and then certain others they can just have access to only work order details. So this way it lets max admins administer the reports more tightly. And then this last new thing here is the define ad hoc reporting library. This is what I talked about earlier. This is the report expression library. So if there are any expressions that are used regularly, or any expressions that you want to be available to all users who create QBRs, you can create them here and you can just save them. And then any time any user runs the QBR, if they have access to the QBR, they will have these expressions available for use in the report. So you don't have to keep creating expressions that you use each time you set up a QBR. Okay, so now let's do one last thing. The report that I created, let's try and reassign. So I can show you where to reassign that to somebody else. So I call my report work order labor information. That's the report that I created. Maximo gives it a file name that's an auto-generated name. So here, this is where the QBR created by field. So this is created by maxadmin. And now, if I want, I can change the owner to somebody else, and then they would be able to edit the report and not me. Another thing here that's really useful to know is that, like I talked about before, if you want to create this report in Maximo and use that as a basis to edit this report in BERT, what you need to know is this report file name here, and then you just go and query the database, the report design table in the Maximo database, and then just use this file name to extract the XML code for the file, and then save it as a report design file, open it in BERT Designer, and then you can just change whatever you want over there, and then import the report here. So yeah, that completes our demo here. No problem. Please send me an email if you have any other questions. We will be uploading this presentation and the webcast recording on our website soon as well. So yeah, thank you all for your time and interest, and I look forward to meeting you in our next webcast. So, thank you.
Thank you.